Okay, so, does anyone remember the arcade Big Buck Hunter? It was a light gun hunting game, where you used a shotgun or rifle, with the goal of getting the biggest bucks you could. When I looked at the Hunter Call of the Wild, this is where my mind went, and the nostalgia from it. Story time. Years ago, there was a band my friends and I were into doing a release party for their new album in Chicago. Chicago is about an 8-hour drive from where we lived, but we decided it could be a fun vacation and road trip. The driver and organizer of this trip wanted to get to Chicago as soon as possible, so we could explore the city. My other friend decided trolling the driver became his main mission. Now, in the rest stops on our trip, there were arcades, and Big Game Hunter was one of the games. Troll and I stopping by the arcade angered the driver, so we made it our goal to stop at every rest stop from that point on, looking for Big Buck Hunter. That 8-hour trip turned into 12 hours, and not a single other rest stop had a Big Buck Hunter arcade. Now, don't feel too bad for the driver. He made sure to get everyone up really early to make up for lost time. So, Troll and I made a secondary goal of the trip. Outside of going to the concert, we needed to find an arcade with Big Buck Hunter. Driver was severely unhappy with this decision because he wanted to check out the city. So we went our separate ways. Troll and I looking for an arcade, and Driver and his girlfriend. After spending all day on foot with no luck, we finally found a directory in the hotel, and there was an arcade a few blocks away from the concert's venue. So after the show, we finally went to that arcade, and it ended up having Big Buck Hunter. Kinda. It was a retrofitted Killer Instinct machine, joysticks and all. And the bad part? The accuracy of the light gun was way off. So that ruined the game for me. Silver lining though, this would be the first and last time I would ever get to play on that massive 6-person 2-screen X-Men arcade. The trip had a few other shenanigans, but this story's gotten way too long for a review video. The Hunter, Call of the Wild, is an open-world hunting sim, which outside of the hunting part, shares nothing with Big Buck Hunter. And while there are a few missions to change things up, most of the game is just about actively hunting animals. By successfully hunting, you will collect money for ammo, weapons, and equipment upgrades. The bigger the gun, the bigger the game you can take down. And then bigger game is then worth more money. The maps are massive, and the travel speed is slow. It will take minutes of real-time traversal to get between points in this game. There are some fast travels, but they are sparsely placed, and they have to be activated before being usable. So a lot of the early game is just spent on walking and exploring. And then walking to get to a hunting spot. And walking between hunting spots. And walking towards animals. And following animal tracks. And walking following animal tracks. Tracking is the other large part of this game. Following the tracks leads to two things: animal habitats and the actual animals. Learning where and when each creature drinks, eats, and rests will immensely help find animals to hunt for the future. The hunting can feel very feast or famine though, as there would be long periods of time I wouldn't see a single creature for the better part of an hour. Then other times, I would be actively stalking something, and another creature would just wander into range. Call of the Wild requires you to actively hunt in different areas. As you get kills, the areas will start to get hunting pressure, and animals will start actively avoiding them, making you have to hunt in other areas to lower the pressure. This game is about patience, and everything takes time. This was probably one of the hardest parts to get into. Waiting for creatures to show up in specific areas can take an hour of real time, if they show up at all. And when using lures to call animals in, it can be hard to tell if anything is actually hearing or interested in the lure. A few of my kills came from point-blank, split-second shots from an animal walking into me out of nowhere when I was hiding. Those situations also lead to some of the best jump scares I've ever had gaming. There is nothing like trying to hunt game, only to turn around and find it standing right behind you, staring directly at you. These short, intense moments were surprisingly good at pumping up the adrenaline. Animals will attack you. Deer and elk will sometimes actively charge you. I had a deer randomly run into me while I was walking on a path, not even actively hunting anything. Then there are the bears. And by the way, the bears are fast. If for whatever reason you think a beast that big is slow, I promise you they are not. Luckily, the only time I was attacked by one, after taking a quick swipe at me, it ran off. The actual gunplay and shooting in Call of the Wild feels great. Shot placement is everything in this game, and the difference of killing a creature on the spot or having to track the blood droplets from the running creature for literal minutes, hoping it will finally bleed out. First off, don't go for headshots, as much as we have all been trained to through every other shooter. Hitting vital organs is the best way to take down most creatures. Most of my kills were lung shots. Fair warning, the starting rifle does leave something to be desired. Or, even more accurately, how weak the soft point ammo is. The soft point rounds have poor penetration, making instant kills way more difficult. Save yourself the trouble, and don't attempt to hunt moose with it. On the other hand though, the starting shotgun is actually pretty solid, and I found myself getting a lot of kills with this. I just wish you could get a scope for it sooner. I also really enjoyed the bow hunting, but arrows are pretty expensive early on. Bow hunting also required getting closer to animals to get shots, making it a totally different style. While there are plenty more guns to unlock, I've only used the starter weapons and bought a bow. I also had a 270 rifle appear out of nowhere in my inventory. This game is going to require a large amount of time to unlock more weapons, as most of them require weapon scores in the thousands, where I had barely broke into the low hundreds. For me, Call of the Wild had a duality to it. There was so much enjoyable, yet so many frustrations. Animals could see, smell, and hear you way before you could see them, and most of these animals are much quicker than you are also. So getting to jump on them meant taking a lot of time actively trying not to be noticed. And I mean a lot of time. As in crawling on your belly for real-time minutes, trying to make as little noise as possible, and making sure that the wind didn't blow towards the animal to smell you and scare them away. This does make your successful kills feel like absolute feats, but any slip-ups can feel quite discouraging. Moments in this game are intense, but there is a lot of downtime between them. A lot of boring, sitting around doing nothing, just waiting. A lot of actively traveling, hoping to see something in the process and trying to get wherever you are going. And unfortunately, so much of this game is about hearing, so listening to music or a podcast isn't an option. Also, I have to point out one major problem with this game. It is really buggy. In-game, you use a cell phone to track a lot of your information. The screen on the phone would regularly bug on me after about an hour of gameplay, and I would have to restart the game for it to work again. This was severely frustrating while tracking a wounded creature, and led to me losing trails multiple times. Kills can be hard enough to come by, and losing one because the game is bugging was one of the most infuriating moments I have ever had in all of my gaming experience. After all of that, though, do I recommend The Hunter, Call of the Wild? I can't say definitively either way. This isn't just a pick up and play for 20 minutes type of game, which would instantly cross it off of the list of anyone with a busier schedule. An hour of time sink will only lead to a few moments of active hunting. Unlocking stuff will require dozens, if not more hours of playtime, and the learning curve is also quite steep. If you can tough out the monotonous time sinks, which in all fairness Call of the Wild is a hunting sim, if you can get through the slow grind towards bettering your hunter, if you can deal with knowing that this game will make you work for everything you get, and you may still come up short, then I would say yes, play this game. Absolutely, the negatives are substantial. Yet, after everything I have just pointed out, the sense of pride and accomplishment from everything finally going right it really is something amazing. While other games I have reviewed can truly be a chore to get to the 10 hours of playtime, I have surpassed 20 hours and think I will be continuing even more with this game. Thanks for watching.